Live now. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm going to wait a few minutes for all of us to hop on while we wait. If you guys can, feel free to add in the chat where you guys are joining us from. I'm actually here located in Chicago. For any of our ladies here who are here from Chicago, we probably know that today was a beautiful day in the city after having such a cold couple of weeks. I see in the chat that we have from California, Kansas City, San Francisco. This is awesome. The Bay Area. Awesome. So before we begin, I just want to say my name is Juana Estrada and I'm the event manager here at Latinas in Tech, and I am very happy to have you all join us today. If you guys can, please feel free to also include in the chat, your roles and where you're working, where you're coming from to working from. Sorry. And I also want to just give a really quick shout out to our sponsor of today's event. Thank you so much to the team of Slack and to our panelists that will be speaking today. And again, also just a great shout out to all of you guys who are joining us today for this amazing event. Before I begin, I want to just give a quick little rundown of what we do here at Latinas in Tech. Latinas in Tech is actually here to serve you women here who are joining us today. This is your first time joining us today. You're welcome to an amazing opportunity for you to connect and network with women who, just like yourself, are trying to advance in their careers in tech. The way Latinas in Tech provides and empowers women in tech is by providing them professional development opportunities, recruitment opportunities like today's event, and also by providing them mentorship programs, which we are hoping to launch by sometime next year in the Q1. If this is your first time coming to our events, the best way to go about connecting with our network is going to our website, which is latinasintech.org. And if once you join our network, you'll be open to over 20 chapters that we have all over the U.S. and globally, and we have about 17,000 women who are in our network. So you'll be connected to a large network of women who are just like yourself, trying to grow in their career, but also a lot of entry-level women who are pivoting currently in their careers and looking to see for mentorship between women within the network. Our biggest goal is, as mentioned, to connect you guys to partners and our sponsors who, like yourself, are looking to grow the network of Latinas within their organizations. Like today, we have Slack. There's a queue of the housekeeping rules for today is that we ask that you provide your questions in the Q&A section below. You'll see in the bottom bar where it says Q&A, and that little tab is where we ask you guys to ask your questions for our panelists for discussion today. And we just ask that you please allow for all of the comments to be directed in the chat. And with that, I'm going to pass it down to our speaker for today, Jennifer. She will be our moderator for today's discussion. And with that, I will lead on the conversation for you, Jennifer. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone from wherever you're zooming into from. My name is Jennifer. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm actually a software engineer at Slack. And I am reporting to you live from New Hampshire. So it was snowing for me today. Hopefully Chicago was nice. But I actually have the joy of being your moderator for tonight and the pleasure of helping introduce our panelists. So what we're going to do is I want to introduce everyone, but I think the best way is to have folks introduce themselves. So what we're going to do is just say your name, pronoun, your role at Slack, where you're tuning in from, so your location, and your favorite Latin food. For example, mine is arroz con leche, but it has to be cold. So even if it's just warmed up, I will stick it in the freezer. So that is a little bit about me. And I'm actually going to pass it off first to Frances, so you can get it away.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. Hi, everyone. I'm Frances Coronel. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm currently a software engineer on the customer acquisition team at Slack, so anything on slack.com. This isn't on here, but I do want to say shout out to all the Peruvians on this call. Got to shout out my home country there. I'm currently in Inglewood, California, and my favorite Latin food is, well, it's a drink. It's horchata. It's lots of sugar, but it's kind of addicting. Like boba tea. It's like horchata is up there. Yeah, so I'll pass it on to Gabriela.
All right, thank you, Francis. Well, first of all, thank you everybody for being here today. My name is Gabriela Sosa. My pronouns are she and her. I am a senior renewals manager here at Slack. I am originally from Brazil, so hi to everybody from Brazil, but I'm based in Denver, Colorado, and my favorite Latin food is definitely Brazilian feijoada. And I will pass to Maria.
Feijoada is really good. I'm Maria Vasquez. Hi, everyone. I'm Uruguayan. If there's another Uruguayan here, please let me know. We're only 3 million, so always interested in that. And I'm based in New York, and I'm an account executive at Slack for the mid-market segment. So it's companies between 500 and 1,500 employees. So it's like fast-growing startups, a lot of fast-growing startups from LATAM, and pronounced she, her, hers. And favorite foods, I would have to say the empanadas uruguayas and the arepas from other countries. I'll pass it to Veronica.
And I'll pass it to Alexa.
Wow, we're covering all bases. I love it. So my name's Alexa Matos. I go by she, her. I'm a recruiting coordinator. I'm based out of New York City, and I support and recruit for sales roles. And I'm Dominican, and both of my parents are from the Dominican Republic. And my favorite Latin cuisine, favorite dish is probably just plantains. Like, give me plantains with anything, I'll eat it. It makes me so happy. And I will pass it over. Well, I think all panelists are answered. Yeah, awesome.
Yep. Thank you for everyone for introducing themselves, and all of your foods just sound so delicious. I'm like hungry right now. But to kick it off, I just want to give a quick rundown. We actually have a list of questions that the panelists already have gotten ahead of time, and I'll just be directing them to their name of who can answer what. And then at the end, we are going to answer your questions. We're going to pick around 3 or 4 if time allows. So to kick it off, we're going to actually start with 2 questions. And this is going to Alexa and Francis, but I'll start with the first one first. What did you learn with experience that you wish you knew when starting to network?
I'll go first. Prior to my time in tech, I used to work in finance, and whenever I would network, I would go research the person and come to the meeting with like a list of questions. And after a while, I realized that was not great. I think it adds too much pressure and it comes off like a little too cold. And now I've learned it's better to approach networking with like a more empathetic, vulnerable mindset. So both parties feel comfortable, and you leave the experience like just with richer information.
Yeah, I think for me early on in my career, I really underestimated the value of networking. And I also didn't do it in a way that I was getting a lot of replies. So I would do a lot of cold emails, a lot of cold LinkedIn inbound, outbound. And I'm getting a lot of that myself now, like later on in my career. And I made the same mistakes. Like I didn't really research the person, understand what value they could provide to me. I didn't really offer anything in return for their time, which is really one of the most valuable assets we have as human beings. And so I think what I would just recommend to folks like that I learned is just really being empathetic when reaching out and trying to put yourself in their shoes. You know, like I'm In meetings, I'm trying to focus on coding. I really want to think I'm getting value or provide value to someone in a way that I'm feeling fulfilled by it if I'm going to take time out of my schedule to talk with them. And also, it's worth noting that a lot of things that you get from networking can sometimes be done asynchronously. Like, you don't necessarily have to have a call. It doesn't have to be a video call. Video calls are really kind of like emotionally taxing sometimes because you have to kind of mentally prepare for that. You have to look decent. A phone call might be like more low touch, less effort, and still get what you want out of that conversation. So don't underestimate the power of networking. I'm sure we'll talk more about that and just the value we've gotten from it. But also just try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Like, if you want to network with any of the people here at Slack because you want to work at Slack, think about how you're going to approach that, and like, let's talk about it. You know, how you're going to reach out to everyone here, because these are badass women here. So yeah, I think just like kind of going into that mindset before reaching out.
Those were so great. And I'm going to segue to our next question. And this is still for both of you, Alexa and Francis. How has networking or building your community influenced your career?
Yeah, I actually got my job at Slack through networking via LinkedIn. So I'm so grateful. I mean, my team member is actually in India who got me the job. So, but before Slack, I would reach out to Latinas in the tech space and try to learn, like, how can I break into tech. And so surprisingly, like, I got multiple, job opportunities through that. Like, hey, my company's hiring, you should apply to this role. So I think, like, putting yourself out there and not being afraid to ask, like, hey, my name is so and so, I want to do this. Like, people can't help you unless they know what you want. And so coming into networking intentionally, I think is very helpful, especially via LinkedIn, because that's like where you get your jobs, LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think, oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, I can, I wanted to share my experience when I came to New York. So I did 4 specific things that really were, in terms of networking, that were really key for my career. So one was starting to attend meetups. I know meetups are not the same now, but that was super key, mostly to put myself out there and learn how to network, how to approach people, rip that Band-Aid. A lot of times we're like scared of like bothering, or do we have something valuable to say? Well, that was the first thing. Then I started a meetup because I realized that was a really good way to start building the network and starting to connect people. It was the Latin American tech meetups, actually, and we organized them in New York and San Francisco. And that was, for example, very important in terms of influencing my career for my job now at Slack, where I work with Latin American startups. I understood the players, I understood how it worked, people from many countries. So that was really important. Then I also started, these are a lot of ideas for people interested in networking, volunteering in other big meetups. For example, Latinas in Tech offer your help. And that's how I met, actually, doing that, my first boss in New York, for an investment bank specialized in media marketing and ad tech in M&As. And the last one is I started offering companies in Latin America to help them connect with people specifically, or VCs or other partners or companies in US. And that's how I met my past boss, actually. It was a company, nothing to do with Latin America. I was helping a company, a Latin company in tech and genomics. And I connected them with someone in tech and genomics here, and I ended up working in that company for 4 years. It was great. So a lot of ideas there.
Yes, and Francis, I know that you are heavily involved in an organization. Would you care to share?
Yeah, so Tequeria is a nonprofit that has the largest global community of Latinx professionals in tech. Latinas in Tech has actually been around longer than Taqueria, and we have collaborated many times in the past. And I would describe Latinas in Tech as like the more mature, better looking older sister. And then Taqueria is like the gender neutral younger sibling trying to figure themselves out still. But yeah, I would say like with Taqueria, I joined as a member in 2017. I also joined Latinas in Tech around then. And I was kind of passive. I was really not liking my job at the time. The work-life balance was really bad. And so I was actively job searching. And it was through that community that I reached out and I said, hey, I got through the recruiting screen for Slack. I would love to work here. Has anyone ever, gone through the process of interviewing with Slack? Or do you work at Slack? And are you willing to talk to me? And I really tried to think about how I would frame it. Before I reached out to different people, either cold or just like generic message in a public channel. And I was able to connect with 4 different people through that and just have one-on-one conversations with them. And that really made all the difference. And I came in with so much more confidence than I would have. And this was after being rejected so many times from other companies after going through like even the final round of interviews. I was able to break into Slack, and I've been really happy here for almost 4 years now. So it has been such an influence on my career, and part of why I got so involved with Taqueria and was leading that organization for some time was because I was motivated from that experience to pay it forward to this community. And Latinas in Tech has also been such a great resource for me throughout my career as well. So I can't say enough about the communities, nonprofits, or otherwise that are out there. As Latinas, we have multiple identities, right, that we can tap into and take advantage of when it comes to seeking out these resources in these communities. There's so many out there, and they provide a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of connections too.
That was beautiful. And I love your analogy of Taqueria and Latina women, like just the sisterhood. But taking a step back and thinking more in terms of like our community, this question is going to be for Gabriela. Why is building a community so important?
Well, Jennifer, I understand that building a community can be a little bit challenging, especially with the effects of the pandemic, social isolation. But I do believe that is a strong link between our health, our happiness, and our connections, right? And it can definitely have an impact as an individual and as a leader. For example, in my experience, when I was still living in Brazil, I didn't realize how important it was to be a part of a community until I moved to the US. I didn't know anybody. So then I decided to look for other Brazilians here living in Denver. And then I discovered a large community that definitely affected me personally and professionally. Some like examples, I started participating in professional networking events where I was able to expand my connections and start to feel more confident that I would to be able to succeed, to be honest, here in the US. And speaking, for example, speaking about job opportunities, the advice that I received from others, from other people, and building friendships. So my advice in this case of how important the community is will be not to be afraid of reaching out. It is okay to ask for advice, and with that, it can also help you to open your eyes for what is possible in other opportunities out there, right?
Yes, and that was so good. Thinking about from community to now more personal challenges. Maria, this question is going to be for you. What is one common challenge you have faced when growing your network?
Yeah, something that Gabriela mentioned, I lived also in Europe and in other countries in Latin America, and the networking culture is not as developed there. and I didn't even realize, I didn't even know. So I learned more about the importance and experience, the importance and the power of community when I came to US. So that's one. So for anyone that is in other countries that where that culture is not so developed, start something. Like talk to 2-3 people in your that you know, and think and try start something, an organization, organize something, even or join one or try to start one. That's useful. Now, actually, especially in Latin America, it changed a lot. So you see much more groups and community and meetups and networks. So that's great. And the second one is what I mentioned earlier, is like putting yourself out there. That was tough. And especially for women, we, I think, are a bit more insecure. We don't know if we're gonna say something as valuable. So we like to be super prepared before do something more than men sometimes. And it's like, why? I mean, just go out there, ask questions, be honest. As Francis said, have something out of value to offer, and be concise of about what you want to achieve. Yeah.
Beautiful. Our next question is going to be, what are some ways your network has helped you achieve your goals? And Gabriela, I'm going to ask you to answer this one.
Right. Well, in one of the communities that I became part of, I was able to meet someone actually that at the time was looking for a Portuguese speaker, and I really wanted to get into the tech field. And she actually worked for a tech company. And at the time, it was like an intro level role, but but I didn't have experience in tech, right? But I study about the company, about the position, and thankfully I was offered a job, and this is when my tech career started here in the US and has just grown from there. And even today at Slack, our internal Latin community has led me to this panel and the opportunity to meet amazing women, amazing people and professionals. And I'm so happy to also today be able to give back to the community by helping others.
Yay. Oh my gosh. So when thinking about hearing your stories and thinking about all this, I'm thinking, okay, but what are some tips? So Alexa, this is going to be for you. What are some tips for connecting virtually with someone outside of your team or your company?
Yes. So we work for Slack, which is an amazing tool to connect. And I was onboarded virtually, so I had to learn how to network virtually. And some tips that have really worked for me is one, like this is referring to like internal at your company, introducing yourself to the person. So create like a short consolidated 3 to 4 sentences of like who you are, why you're interested in speaking with them, so that they know who you are and what you want to speak about. And then coordinate the experience, like find time that works for both parties, obviously be mindful of their time, and then show up prepared, high energy, and have fun, like that. If you're having fun, the other person's having fun. And then showing gratitude for their time. That has really worked for me for networking. And then for externally, LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. It is your resume online. I got my job through LinkedIn, and I created my profile actually like from TikTok. Like there are so many coaches on TikTok that will teach you how to, market yourself on LinkedIn, like words to use, like what kind of pictures, what kind of banners, like how to communicate your job experience. And your LinkedIn could get you the job if you do it appropriately. And it's never has to be perfect. You can constantly like edit your LinkedIn, but I think that's important. And then again, another tip is like I work with recruiters, and if you apply to a job at a company, also like message the recruiter, like you're doing them a favor. They want to hear from you, like you're saving them time. So like message the recruiter as well, even message the hiring manager. You never know, or just message somebody on the team, like get eyes on it, put yourself out there, be vulnerable. And the worst that can happen is that no one sees it, but like at least you know you tried. Like take that risk.
Oh my gosh, just thinking about that. You need to share with me your TikTok videos that you're watching to make a LinkedIn profile.
Right. I
But
wanted
yeah,
just to highlight that too. I got my job at Slack sending a message directly to the hiring manager. So what you said, like do that, or try to find someone that works at the company in one of these communities, in Latinas in Tech, in Ladies Get Paid, in any of community of women related to tech. That's very useful too.
beautiful. And we're actually going to segue into the last prepared question of the night before we enter into the Q&A section. And just so you remember, you can actually pre-submit your questions down in one of the Q&A like box that you see down below. But our last question is going to be for Maria and Francis. So the question is, one of Slack's values is empathy. How can someone use empathy to connect with others when networking?
I can start if you want. So in my experience, the most valuable or long-term connections I made were the ones where I had a genuine interest or admiration or curiosity about the person or their job, their activity. And there was something I really wanted to learn. Obviously, you will have more transactional connections in your, but the ones that the more valuable and long run ones are the ones where we are really interested, I think, in something, and that activates empathy right away, because when you care about something, you want to learn more, you want to understand what they care about, what they do, what they need, how they think, and that leads then to you being able to create value for them. Making a very good introduction for someone, sending the right information or whatever it is. As an example, as I mentioned, my job before Slack was at this company, Genco, in tech and genetics. And I met the founder because I introduced him to another founder in genetics, nothing to do. But I was so interested in what he was doing that we kept in touch through the years. And then when he spun out the company of the New York Genome Center, I was the first hire, ended up being the first hire to manage everything commercial, just because we had been like interested in each other's work or throughout the years. So I think that's key. Empathy is key, and caring. When you care about something, that's where the long-term value happens.
Yeah, I think of empathy as just like trying to put yourself in that person's shoes and making it as easy as possible to make them want to say yes to talking with you or connecting with you or answering your question. So when it comes to empathy, I would say just like having your questions ready is really useful. Like you have an ask, right? So what is that ask? You can say that right away and maybe they'll just text you back, but at least you're getting something. Another thing too is like handling the logistics yourself. So you can send like them a link so that they can just book the call with you directly, or you can ask them if they have a link just to make it easier on them in terms of coordination, because that stuff can be really tedious. And also just complimenting them, like leading with a compliment, making it clear like why you value their time because of how awesome they are or what they're doing in their space, not just because you want a job referral or because you want to learn more about the company. Like that's really basic. And there's so much online already that you can learn what is unique about their experience that is motivating you to reach out to this person. Because that's the number one reason people reach out to me nowadays, at least cold on LinkedIn. It's like, I want a referral to work at Slack. And the thing that it's really obvious, first of all, when people are copying and pasting. So that's a big, turn off. And then it's also overwhelming if it's like a whole essay of text and it's like, this is why we should connect. And it's like, well, no. So yeah, just kind of like leading with empathy and just trying to put yourself in that other person's shoes. Like what kind of message would you want to receive if someone was really interested in getting to know you more, and going from there.
Yes, I love that you highlighted that like we're all just humans and being in the other person's shoes. Also, yes on the being proactive and just taking lead and suggesting, oh, these are when I'm free. I would definitely gotten LinkedIn messages, and it's like, okay, do you want me to lead it? Because it seems like you're the one wanting to talk to me. So I highly agree with everything that everyone has said in the panel today. So we're now going to be moving into our Q&A portion of the night, and we actually have a really good amount of time. So just as a quick reminder, there's so much activity happening in the chat, but it goes by so quickly. So I'm actually able to read your questions if you submit it down in the Q&A box, and taking it from there. I'm also seeing a lot of wonderful, like great activity about sharing LinkedIn requests on the chat. So yes, feel free to do that. Feel free to do that with us too, and just kind of practicing what we're teaching / advocating for with us, because we don't, right? So first question of the night will be, can you describe what changed between getting rejected at other places versus getting through in Slack? And I'm going to open it up for anyone. So let's have like 1 or 2 people answer each question. So whoever wants to take that one. I can also repeat it if that's helpful.
Yeah, I was looking for a question. The Q&A.
Yeah. I like found it somewhere. Can you describe what changed between getting rejected at other places versus getting through in Slack?
I can speak to that one from experience. Like before Slack, I interviewed at another tech company, big brand name, for 2 different roles, and I got rejected. And looking back at that experience, like that the interview process was so stressful. Like it wasn't fun, it wasn't easy. I felt like really under pressure, versus my interview process at Slack was so effortless, like laughing multiple times, like connecting genuinely. So sometimes like what's not meant for you is just like directing you to what is meant for you. And the interview process usually will set the tone for like how the job will be too. So like if it doesn't feel right, like don't be afraid to just like call it quits.
Yeah, I would say, like in my experience, when I got rejected to a different job opportunity, something that I've learned is like make the room speak, show more of your personality, right? So then I felt that this is it was like more of a way for me do like definitely do your homework and really pay attention to like the culture and see if this is really like a great fit for you, like Alexa just mentioned, but then definitely ask for feedback as well. Ask for feedback. This is super important. So then it's helpful. So then you will know what you can improve, right? And this is definitely the way that I used to be here at Slack. And it was like Alexa mentioned, it was such a whole different experience. And I felt that because of what I've learned, I was way more prepared.
Yeah. So taking a look at the rest of the questions, this one came in and it just hit me because I was right there with you. So the question is, once you break into tech for the first time, have you felt like you don't belong or undeserving? And what did you do to build up your confidence and overcome self-doubt?
I can answer that. So I think many of us can resonate like that in the workplace or maybe in school. There were not a lot of Latinas. I was usually the only Latina in my computer science classes growing up, and then in my first job outside of school. So, I mean, it was really obvious to me, like, not a lot of people who look like me get into this space. But that actually really didn't become a big deal until I started getting rejected a lot. when I was job searching. So when I was job searching, and this was when, this was before Slack, I was job searching a lot. I got rejected by, I think, 5 or 6 companies after doing the final round with them. So I was really close, but I still would get rejected. And one of the instances I learned, it was between me and a guy who went to the same school as the hiring manager. So I was like, maybe it isn't me, maybe it is me, maybe I'm just not good enough. So I really started to doubt myself then, and I really went through that imposter syndrome. That is all too common, you know, in this industry. A lot of people go through it, and I definitely did in that instance. And I was really ready to just say, like, maybe I should just transition to like something that's going to be easier, where there's just going to be more women, and I won't have to be like the only one all the time. And it really took just like reaching out to my support network, like my family, my friends, people I knew closely, to sort of get out of that mindset and just keep going. And it wasn't long after that, I think it was like 1 or 2 months after that, that I was able to get my offer from Slack. So lots of persistence and perseverance is needed. It is a lot of willpower, honestly, sometimes, that is required, but having that support network, having that community, is a huge thing, because it provides that validation that you need when you're at those low points in your career. And everyone goes through it over and over again. We're going to get into these low points, and we have to have a way of kind of an outlet to be there for when we get that.
Yes, and on the same vein, on imposter syndrome, I just want to like quickly share that I have felt it, especially because I kept on coming up with reasons on why I didn't belong. So I studied history in university, so I felt like so out of my league just coming into tech. But something that I realized was really helpful was stopping comparing myself to others and instead starting to track how I progressed over time and celebrating those small wins. Because when you're like a year or 2 years in and you reflect back and you're like, oh my gosh, I have learned so much. And it's really nice to just kind of like take a pause and think, okay, let's think more about me and focus less on like whatever noise is around you. So going on to the next question.
Sorry, I just wanted,
yeah.
related to what you said, also think that tech companies are not about tech. Like Slack is not only about tech, it's about building communities, communication, HR, sales, so many things, so many experiences that you can bring with you and have so much value. Like the tech part, is like the tech communities, it doesn't make any sense now to feel that you don't belong, because almost all companies are tech companies now. So whatever your background is, you can get in tech and bring a lot of value.
Yes. So next question is, how do you actively network now in your current workplace? If no one wants to take it, we can move on to the next question.
We can say something how we network. This the Fuego group, for example, is key to connect with other Latinos. And now what we're doing, which is an interesting take on hybrid work, is with my team, we're organized once a week. We try to get together at the Salesforce office. And that's important too, because now we're part of Salesforce. So we get to meet other people from Salesforce, which is key, because especially in sales, the community of Salesforce and Slack is really relevant for us to connect with clients and so on. So yeah, that's one way. Try be the person who organizes like the in-person or whatever, the weekly event or something like that. That's really important.
Yeah, and to piggyback a little bit about what Maria said, internally, here at Slack too, we do have some like donuts that we call donuts that also help us to maintain our communication and networking, which you can like, they kind of like introduce people, and that really helps in like different sections of within the company, and it has helped me a lot too.
Yes, and don't be afraid to network with people traditionally outside of your role. So let's say like I work with a designer, even though I'm a software engineer. Like if sometimes I just the people I work with are just so cool. So someone's put it in the chat, but just do coffee chats, even if they're virtual, like they're still super effective. And it doesn't have to have like a hidden agenda or anything. Sometimes I just really like to know like, oh, where do you come from and what's your story? Because I think you're super cool and you're great to work with. So that is one way. And our next question for the night is going to be, how do you make networking more genuine and less of me reading like a list of questions?
I can answer that. One thing I like is open-ended questions, and I think it goes back to like Jennifer, what you said, like tell me your story. Like I think that's the best way to open. Like once, like okay, you did the intro, you coordinated the time, and now we're hopping on Zoom. Like, okay, thank you so much for taking this time. Like I want to learn about you. Like tell me your story, and then you go, and then just like piggybacking off like picking up some clues and asking more questions and more questions and more questions. Like that's how you really create like a deep connection. And you never know like where you end up at the end of the meeting. Like you guys could end up talking about like your culture or like where you both want to end up in your careers, or like a current project like they're working on, or like some skills that you should learn. The conversation can end the conversation can go anywhere because of those like open-ended questions. Like you're leaving so much room for growth versus like being like very cut and dry with like specific like yes or no questions. That's some of my advice.
Cool. So going into like the rest of the list of questions, how would you advise someone who is career switching into a new role or industry? What are some key elements to highlight on your LinkedIn profile to stand out?
Yeah, one thing I want to say, it's important what I learned is people want to see not everything you did, but mostly some results and things you achieve. And even if you are starting your career and you did some cool project in college, whatever it is, maybe talk about that, put a link, show, and that shows a lot of motivation, or that shows much more than you think just by doing that. That's one thing.
Yeah, so then my advice to that point will be something that I've learned is think about the highlights of your career. If you like write it down and you just step back a little bit, you read it, does that really reflects who you are as a professional? That will help you a lot. And this is something that, one example, you have experience in different companies, but then instead of I have experience in X, Y, and Z company, I have 10 years of experience in sales, because all of them together, like it just like shows more of a little bit of who you are and what are some of the specifics that made a difference in your career. And that would definitely help to put in a LinkedIn or resume.
Yes, those are very solid advice. So thinking more on like concrete examples, what are some real examples of the way you presented your value you brought to someone if they were willing to connect with you? So yeah.
Can you explain that question? I know who asked. If someone can explain the chat, how do we present our value?
Yeah, I think Francis was talking about this at, earlier of like, oh, like that person has value to you, but you also have value to them. And I think this participant wanted to just get like more real, like world examples of like how that occurs or how that happens, is my assumption.
I think sometimes it's hard to identify like immediately where you can add value. But again, like I think like asking asking questions to identify the person's pain points. Maybe it could be like a project, or maybe it could be like the strategy, or like the goals for the team, and like what is their current pain point. And like you might not have the answer now, but maybe you could like go home and even think of like, or like strategize like, how can I help them with like their current problem, and then proposing it later on. Like that, who doesn't like to be offered help?
Yes, and sometimes it's honestly just really nice to connect with someone who has like a genuine interest in you or your career. So rather than thinking of it as like, oh, like I'm only asking something from them, like sometimes I know for me and myself, like I love volunteering. I love like doing this kind of stuff, and it just helps me because it like identifies like one part of socializing that also connects with networking. So that's a different way to think about that. So taking a look at other questions. Ooh, this is a good one. Okay. How have you prepared for a role that you've never performed before but have the technical skill set for?
I did a lot of, I had worked in a lot of positions where I had no experience before. So it's a lot about research, common sense, ask for coaching, ask for advice, try to get a mentor, see what other companies are doing. Everything will look more complicated than what actually is at the end of the day. So for me, it's mostly that.
Yeah, I would say like in my case, when I started my first job here in the US, it was for like one of our clients was like a cybersecurity company. I didn't know anything about cyber. And of course, it is at the beginning, you think, I don't know if I can make it. I don't know if I can do it. But I feel like putting the effort, right, and asking questions again, and doing our research, and not just being in that like little bubble and complaining about it. So go try to make yourself value, and also like take step by step, I would say, in this case. And another experience that I had was for another position, because I really wanted to grow into like a bigger like a better position professionally. And I knew that, I'm from Brazil, I speak Portuguese, but that speaking Spanish was a big deal too. So then what I did, like in my mind, I was like, okay, so what can I do to take the next step? So this is when I decided to learn Spanish. So just like think about what you want and work towards it, like actively do it. That will help, like take that step. And then when you see it, you're going to get it.
Yes, and I want to be very conscious of time. So if I could ask the host how much time we have left, and just putting it in the chat. But before that, we can actually answer like another question or two depending on time. So just taking a look now. Ooh, I don't know if anyone has any advice on this one, but do you have any advice on how to pivot from government to the private sector that anyone can speak more on?
I guess it depends in which area. If they can add some, I don't know if they can add via chat, but.
Cool. So
just by the way, even at Slack, we have a specific vertical for government. So that could be a way, like trying to find, if you're trying to go to a tech company, in tech companies that are interested in selling to government, so that could be a way in. And I know many companies are looking for that experience or those insights that want to sell to the public sector.
Cool. So just as a quick reminder, we actually have a couple more minutes, but if you do have a question, please type it in the Q&A, like the chat. There's a lot of really great things happening, but it goes by so quickly, so I tend to miss questions, but I can actually see them in the Q&A section. But just taking a look at any other questions that I may have missed. Ooh, do you recommend obtaining more coding knowledge or training to join a company such as Slack?
Maybe Francis, it's coding knowledge, yes.
I mean, I think Maria talked about this, like there are so many roles within any tech company, you don't have to know how to code. Coding is just one facet, and while it is very much in demand, and I would love to see more Latina engineers, to be honest, it is not the only role that tech has to offer. And there's many ways to be successful and earn a lot of money in all these different roles. So no, you definitely don't need to have coding or technical skills. I do think to be successful at any tech company, you need to be tech savvy, which is very different. And that just means being able to adapt to new tooling because it constantly changes, and just being flexible in how you work and communicate with others. And I think the pandemic has really shown that need to be tech savvy for everybody.
Yeah, tech savvy and understanding the software development process, I think it's important. Because if you're gonna, I don't know, either in sales, in recruiting, whatever it is, you have to understand what it takes to put together, to develop a product, putting it out there, what it takes, to understand the timings, what everyone is doing. So that's key.
Yes, and to highlight on what both Francis and Maria were saying is, like, once you have your foundations, you can actually learn on the job. That's actually what happened with my team. Like when I first started as an intern, I learned one way. And then when I came back, they actually rehauled the entire processing technologies. And I was like, oh, okay, I have to learn something new now, which was totally great because I had the full support of my manager and my team members. And what better way to learn something new while working on a project and getting paid for it? So, seeing any other things? Let me see. I think that's most of the questions, unless there's another last minute question that anyone wants to put through right now.
If not, maybe I think I have a question.
Yeah.
I would love to know how everyone works under imposter syndrome. Like, if you can share like one tip, Maria, Gabriela, Francis, Jennifer. No pressure. I know we still live it every day, but
focus on doing the job, get the job done. That's what the rest doesn't matter. If you create value in sales, if you sell, if in recruiting you're good, whatever it is, you show results, you show value, that's it. Like there's no way you can fill out of the tank, basically. So trying to focus. I know it's difficult sometimes, very, very difficult, even in what Francis was saying, if you don't get the opportunities. But once you're in, just focus on creating value. Doesn't matter if it's tech, not tech, whatever.
Something to add that I constantly remind myself is oftentimes I catch myself saying, oh, I don't know how to do that. And that's why I'm not good enough. And instead, I try to think of like, I don't know how to do that yet, but I can learn and I will learn. And just set myself some time and eventually I do learn. So just trying to retrain your brain into saying that, hey, I'm pretty smart and I can learn anything that I don't know right now. And that often really helps with my imposter syndrome.
I love it.
Sometimes I just watch motivational videos on YouTube and that gets me going. Like even the ones where it's like they're bodybuilders and they're working out and it's like this motivational epic music, because those are the most popular ones and I don't work out to save my life. So, but it's just like the thought that counts and just like you can do it, you can put your mind to it, just like keep trying. That helps a lot. Also music, having Netflix in the background. I don't know, like little things that just calm me down, get me going and in a more positive mindset. Mindset is everything, I think.
Yeah, and mistakes are usually much less problematic than they seem. If you make mistakes, it's fine. Usually they're not a big deal. Try again, learn, and keep going. Yeah, I think that was an important one too.
Yeah, for me, I would say have that, that mindset, but also like resilience is very important. And even though, things can get tough sometimes, is don't forget, who you are. And again, you can definitely add in anything that you can do, anything you put your mind of. For example, even I had like 7 years of experience in Brazil. When I moved to the US, I felt like I was like a baby, right? I didn't even I didn't speak English at all. So then, I had to even learn how to speak literally, right? And I had to discover myself again, I would say. And I took a step back in terms of, okay, here I don't have that experience, the language and the knowledge that I had back in Brazil. But at the same time, I had to adapt to my reality, right, at the time. But then never forgetting, I can do it. I know that it's going to be better. I just need to do what I have to do in order to get to where I would like to be. And I feel like let's do it. We're all super capable, and let's get the job done.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much to all of the panelists, like a huge round of applause. And I'm actually gonna send it back to Juana to close us out. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, all of you guys.
To like actually end today's discussion, I thought that was phenomenal. And shout out to you guys for answering that question about imposter syndrome. I think that for me, personally, even just getting to work for Latinas in Tech was something that, for my personal journey, I had to get over my imposter syndrome to tell myself, like, I deserve to be in this space with Latinos who are wonderful, empowering, intelligent. So thank you so much. And to all of you guys, thank you so much for taking the time out to ask questions and being vulnerable, and also sharing your information for LinkedIn. People are continuously right now sharing information now, so feel free to share your links. But today's wrapped up today's conversation, so I'm gonna actually leave it all to you guys to have a wonderful evening or wonderful rest of your afternoon. But with that, I'm gonna say goodbye. So goodbye, everybody.
Thanks for organizing.
Good job.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.